Can y'all hear me now? Let me know if y'all can hear me out there. Y'all should be able to hear me now, guys. I had to reset and come back. Can y'all hear me? Let me know. Y'all can hear me in the chat, man. We good? Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know y'all can hear me. He said we good. I bet, man. We got a lot of breaking news going on, guys. We got a lot of breaking news. Make sure you double tapping that screen. That's most definitely how you hit that like button. You know, most definitely helps out the channel. Make sure you subscribing if you new. What's up, Westside ATL? I see you in the building, man. We in here, dog. We in here. Man, we got breaking news, man. We got JD Vance and Trump most definitely came out and spoke on the Iran situation, guys. We got that possible, we got a top official, guys. The intelligence official has basically stepped down on Trump. He resigned, guys. He says that there is no need for America to be in Iran right now, guys. You know what I'm saying? He quit on Trump. Big time Trump supporter quit. We also got Trump and them asking for signs of life of the Iran supreme leader, the new one. You know, the son of the one that Trump took out at first is believed to be unalive, as well as we have another top official, their intel official over in Iran has most definitely been eliminated as well. We got reports of that too, man. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen, get the likes up. But first, we're gonna go over here to Trump and JD Vance and let them update us on what's going on in Iran right now, guys. Make sure you're double tapping that screen. If you're here, double tap that screen if you can hear the sound of my voice, man. It helps out the channel. That's how you hit the like button. And make sure you subscribe if you're new, man, as we hear from JD Vance and Donald Trump about what's going on in Iran, guys. Let's go.
Yeah, no, and we can't have this stuff happening. Right. We have to be respected. And they left. So I'm going to sign this. We'll take some questions, but let me sign this first before I don't forget. Let's see. Before I decide not to, okay? Yes, sir. I don't forget not to, but maybe I'll decide not to. I would decide not to. If I didn't think they could do the job, I would decide not to. But that'll be a terrible thing. I think they're going to find numbers. Andrew, I think you're going to find numbers that are far higher than you even think. And you know, Andrew came to us. He said many times.
Let's get you to go ahead and sign this so we can get to Iran. Hold on, guys.
People, the leadership, violent, vicious people. They killed 32,000 protesters over the last 3 weeks. They put out a memo 2 days ago saying, if you protest, we will shoot you and kill you in the streets. And somebody said, oh, there's not that many protests. Well, first of all, there are bombs going off all over the place. But even if there weren't, who's going to do that? You know, who's going to do it? They don't have any guns, and the other ones have latest in line machine gun, right? And every form of gun you can have. They shoot them right through the middle of the head. They're violent people. If they had a nuclear weapon...
He's talking about Iran being violent people, guys. Make sure you guys are double tapping that screen. Let's get those likes up, man. That's how you show support for the channel. It helps out the channel as well. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen or click the 3 dots in the right-hand corner. Hit that thumbs up, guys. Let's get those likes up. We got over 200 people in the building, only got 15 likes. Please take time to double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device or click the 3 dots in the right-hand corner, guys. Hit that thumbs up. We're listening to Trump and JD Vance give insight on what's going on in Iran, guys.
They would use it. And sometimes I'll have some of the people that, you know, feel very strongly, like I do about wars. And I say, do you think Iran is violent? And do you think their people are violent? Yes, leadership. Do you think they should have a nuclear weapon? Which is massive power. I don't even want to discuss how powerful, because it's depressing. And they said, no, they shouldn't have. Definitely they shouldn't have. They said, and you don't want to fight war. No, we don't want to fight war. So these are naive people that frankly are stupid. If you believe that Iran should have a nuclear weapon, there's something wrong with you, because they would use it within, the only question is within 1 hour if they get it, or 1 day. they will use it and they will blow up the entire Middle East, not just Israel. They'll start with Israel, but they will blow up. And you got to see that when they unexpectedly started sending missiles to every country within 1,000 miles of them. I mean, they're blowing up countries that were neighbors, not necessarily some friends. They actually were blowing up some friends. They were blowing up the people that handle their accounts. They're sending thousands of missiles into countries that didn't expect to be in the war because they wanted to take over the Middle East. And if I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's horrible Iran nuclear deal, which I did in my first term, one of the dumbest deals, perhaps the dumbest deal because of the danger involved, you would have had them have a nuclear weapon 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. They would have used it, blown up the Middle East, and they would have then come after us. And if these gorgeous B-2 bombers, give me that bomber, Andrews. Let me just hug that little sucker. Give me that bomber over there. Thank you. You knew immediately which one. This looks small, but in person it's very big. It's the only plane capable of carrying a 200.
So this is Trump telling us basically what they are doing over there in Iran, guys. Double tap that screen. Get the likes up if you just hit the building, man. Double tap that screen. Let's get those likes up if you're on a mobile device. So click the 3 dots. Hit that thumbs up, man. They filling us in on what's taking place in Iran, guys.
1,000-pound bomb. So I don't know how they do it because it's very sleek and nice, but it carries a lot of weapons and there's a lot of bombs. But had I not sent this incredible machine times numerous others to hit Iran at midnight with no moon, dead dark, every single bomb was dropped right down the chute that it was supposed to hit. How they do it, who knows? Nobody else can figure it. No other country can do it. No other country has our military or even close. And I think we've probably proven that with Venezuela and now with because we have done a number in Iran. But if I didn't do that, if I didn't decimate, I call it their nuclear dust, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month after that bombing took place, and they would have used it.
Allegedly. This is all alleged from Trump because breaking news, the top intel official, Joe Kent, guys, has resigned on Trump and basically said there's no reason for us to be in Iran, guys.
On first Israel and then the Middle East. And you know that because all of those missiles that were launched against their neighbors were set long ago, long before they knew they would be using them this quickly. Had we not done this, you would have had a nuclear war that would have evolved into World War III. And more important, this is a war that there would have been nothing left. So we've done a great thing. The people that say it's okay for a very sick ideology, a very sick country in terms of its leadership. Very good people, great people. But the people that say that, I think they're actually, they're either...
Do not spam the chat talking about these drones, my guy, or you will be blocked. Clock landers, you know, let's slow down on spamming the chat. We see you typing about the 9 drones, man. Okay, we get it.
Evil or they're stupid. So if you believe that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, they should not have it, then you have to absolutely love what I've done because in 2 weeks we have decimated them. They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft weapons, they have no leadership. The leadership is gone. But then they set up a new leadership to go and name a new leader and that leadership is gone. And now they think maybe the sun is gone. They're all gone. My biggest problem is I have no idea who we're talking to because nobody ever heard of any of these people. They're all dead. But we did a job for the world, not a job for us, for the whole world. We took the worst country in 50 years and maybe longer from the ideological standpoint, a country that wanted to blow up the world, a country that is sick, and it has a religious fervor. And when you add religion, you know, people don't realize more people died in religious wars than every other war put together. And that's what you would have had here. And it was a terrible thing. I'm very proud of what we did. And I think JD understands better than most. If you give Iran a nuclear weapon, at least a very substantial part of the world would be blown up, and it'll be used almost immediately. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You don't mind if I keep this here, do you? Isn't that a beautiful thing? You know, I used to look at it, and I said, it's a piece of art, but how can it be effective? It's so stealth.
And as of last night, guys, we dropped 5,000-pound bombs on on Iran, guys. You know, breaking news. 5,000-pound bombs. Yeah, for real.
Give it, Peter.
Hey, Reed.
1 a.m, it flies in, and they say, sir, they're in Iranian airspace. And I say, oh, and I'm watching it from the Situation Room with a couple of other very smart people, including some good generals, real generals, not television generals. And all of a sudden you see that dive, they start diving, and sure, and you see him 30,000, 20,000. Boy, I said, that was a lot. They went down fast to aim it. And they know they're coming, and they're smart, and they never saw them. And they're firing a little bit, but they don't know what they're firing at because they can't see a thing. And then you hear the biggest explosions that anybody's ever heard. Those are the biggest bombs.
The 5,000 pound guys.
Those are the biggest bombs. And you say, what technology we have. What a great country. I built it during my first term. I built it. I did not have to use it this much in my second term. But we had an incompetent president. We had an incompetent administration. And if that group of people in any form, whether it's Kamala, him, it doesn't matter, would have had another 4 years, we would have had no country left. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You say you're doing a job for the rest of the world. In your conversations with your counterparts, are they thanking you? What are your conversations like when you talk about this military conflict that's taking place in Iran?
Well, they should be thanking me because many of them get 90%. China, as an example, should be thanking us, but I don't expect to thank you, but they should be thanking us. Japan gets...
Did y'all hear of the news about Trump asking for the allies to help us? You know, and basically he got turned down and started saying he didn't need them anyway. Let's go.
85%, China 91%. Many of the countries, South Korea gets a tremendous percentage of their oil and therefore their energy from the Straits, or as they call it, the Strait. And they should be not only thanking us, they should be helping us. What does surprise me is that they're not eager to help. There are a couple, we'll be announcing some names here. There are some that really were right up front. I would announce their name now, other than, maybe they'd prefer it not being announced for whatever reason. I will say this, it's a lot easier to get people today than it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, before we destroyed before we obliterated the country, before we took out, because they're down to about 8% of their missiles, they're down to a small portion of their drones, and we've demolished many of their factories where they make the missiles and the drones, and the rest are all following. Our military has been amazing. We hit Karg Island, took out every single thing in Karg Island except one thing. We left the pipes, because if we take out the pipes, it takes a long time to build them. And at some point, something's going to happen that's positive with respect to those pipes. But there are some countries that greatly disappointed me. And I'm the one that got them to pay from 2% to 5% of GDP, NATO. And I get along great with those countries in NATO, but I always said, the problem with NATO is we'll always be there for them, but they'll never be there for us. And when I hear the UK, which we sort of considered the Rolls Royce of allies, right? When you say they were the oldest and they were going to be there. And I say it would be really helpful if you'd send over a couple of ships, and if you have some minesweepers, which they do, it'd be very helpful. And the Prime Minister is a nice man.
And they said no. And Trump said, forget it. We didn't need y'all anyway.
I think he's a very nice guy. He says, well, I'd like to ask my team. I said, you don't have to worry about a team. You don't have a team. You're the Prime Minister. You can make a decision. Well, I have to speak to my people. I said, you don't have to speak to anybody. So it was very disappointing. And then after we obliterated them and destroyed their military, the whole thing, and it became a much safer zone, he said, we're going to send over 2 aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them anymore. I don't want them after we win. I want them before we start.
And there you go. Oh, they were going to send over 2, and I told them I didn't want them. Yeah, no, really, the news that I have gotten is that they turned Trump down. And Trump basically told them, we didn't need you anyway.
I don't need your aircraft carriers after we've already won. So, those things are very disappointing. And you have to remember, we have 45,000 troops in Japan.
To everybody that just entered the building, let's get the likes over 100, guys. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen or click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up, guys. We need 40 more likes. Double tap that screen, guys, if you're on a mobile device or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. This is Trump and J.D. Vance telling us basically their take on what's going on in Iran, guys. Let's double tap that screen.
45,000 troops in South Korea. We have 45,000, 50,000 troops in Germany. We defend all these countries. And then, do you have any minesweepers? And they say, well, would it be possible for us not to get involved? I've been saying it for a long time. This is the greatest thing to come out of this. We spend trillions and trillions of dollars on NATO to defend other countries. And I always said, but if it ever comes time to defend us, they're not going to be there. Many of them would not be there. And we're going to have to start thinking more wisely in this country. Some have been very good. 1 or 2 have been great. I'll tell you, the great ones are at the right time. But there have been some that were right up there, Peter. They were right up there. They wanted to do it so much. Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you. You were talking about Iran a couple times today and what they did after Epic Fury began. You said they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. Are you surprised that nobody briefed you ahead of time that might be their retaliation?
Nobody, no. The greatest experts, nobody thought they were going to hit. They were, I wouldn't say friendly countries. They were like neutral. They lived with them for years. Peter, they were going to take over the Middle East. They were going to knock out Israel with their nuclear weapon. But after we knocked out their nuclear potential weapon, they started building missiles, thousands and thousands of missiles. And they were going to do it with missiles while they developed. These are sick people. While they developed nuclear, somehow they were going to start at a different site because that site was, you saw the site, the mountain. They were going to go into a certain area, which we know exactly where it is, and they were going to do that. And it's incredible what we've done. I tell you, the job we've done. If I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, you would right now.
Why do he call his whole name Barack Hussein Obama? It's like he got to just say the whole thing. Trump, just say Obama. Y'all know Trump blame Obama for everything.
Israel would be gone.
Him and Joe
Biden. And probably the Middle East likewise. And remember, they got all of those missiles. And I heard they were sending missiles to UAE. I said, that's strange. UAE is like the banker for Iran. They're like the banker. Qatar, their neighbors, they got along okay. Saudi Arabia. All of a sudden, Kuwait is getting hit. Bahrain is getting, all these countries are getting hit. There was no expert that would say that was going to happen. It's not a question of like, gee, should you have known? And if we did know, big deal. I mean, we have to do what we have to do. But we hit them so hard like nobody's ever been hit. We hit them very hard. And we've extinguished most of their missiles. We've extinguished most of their drones. We've extinguished most of the places where the missiles and the drones are built. We've fully extinguished 2 layers of leadership and probably a third, if you believe some stories. So we only have one thing, they have a little choke point, and they've used it very well for years, but it doesn't work. But I think this, if some of these countries that we've been good to for years, and maybe more important than that, some of these countries that get 90% and 95% of their energy from Hormuz, the Strait. Hormuz, a famous, wonderful, beautiful place but you wouldn't want to be necessarily sailing a boat there right now.
I would not.
Okay, you know why? Not because of them, because of us. Because we've taken out their entire Navy. We've taken out every one of their drone, they call it a drone layer, a mine layer. There's specific boats that are meant to put.
Now I did hear something on these drone guys. They say that basically Iran is using cost efficient drones. They cost like $20,000, right? A piece. And America and Israel are using high-powered weapons in order to be able to take these drones out. That basically the weapons that America and Israel are using cost more than the drones that Iran is launching, guys. Meaning Iran has the means to potentially keep on going for a long time, basically launching these drones, and it's costing us more to take them down than it is for them to launch them. That's crazy, guys.
Mines on. How would you like to have a nation that has 22 boats where their sole function, they're very different looking boats. You wouldn't want one for your family. They're not pretty. Their sole function is to lift a mine into the water and drop it a certain number of feet down. But they had 22 of them. We've taken out all of them. But you can probably drop them off on the boats. So we don't even know. By the way, we don't know that any mines have even been dropped. But the thought that they would scares people that have billion-dollar ships. Yeah, please.
Thank you, President Trump. I'd like to ask the Vice President about his plans to go after possible fraud in California and New York. We know, of course, about Minnesota. And President Trump first could ask you, you said earlier today that the new Supreme Leader, Republic Committee, you don't know if he's dead or alive. There are a couple of interesting reports about him today. There's one report that he just narrowly escaped death in the first air strikes by stepping out into his garden. There's another report that he may actually be gay despite...
So now they asking him about the Iran Supreme Leader, whether he's alive or not. Let's see Trump's response.
Leading the theocracy that hangs gay people. How do you determine what's true, and do you have an assessment of this?
Well, so far nobody knows. If you look at his father, he used to give talks a lot, talking about death to America. He'd say death to America all the time. When they say death to America, you should believe them, because that's what they would have. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. But they never had the chance. I never gave them the chance to use it. And other presidents should have done. I spoke to one of the former presidents who I actually like. I actually speak to some. I do like some people. It would be shocking. And he said, I wish I did what you did. Could have done it. Other presidents, somebody should have done it. 47 years this went on. They call Iran the bully of the Middle East. And you could have never had the Abraham Accords. You could never have had peace in the Middle East. Now you're going to have peace. You could never do it with the dark cloud of a nuclear Iran. But Iran is a shell of itself. It's no longer a bully. It's the one that gets bullied. It's a bully that got beat up. We beat the crap out of them. And they deserve that.
Trump say we beat the crap out of them, guys. What do y'all think?
When you see a soldier walking down the street without his arms, or being helped down the street because he's got no legs, or his face is blown to smithereens with no legs and no arms, those two, no legs, no arms, and a face that got racked, that was done by roadside bombs. That's the favorite weapon of Soleimani, who I killed in my first administration.
Yes, you did.
General Soleimani. Had I not killed him...
And that's why they started chanting the unalive to America. Iran pledged to take revenge on Trump for unaliving Soleimani, guys, in his first term. So much so that they put a bounty on Trump's head. And while Trump was running for office, basically the FBI foiled the plans. They found the people who were trying to collect that money. How many of y'all heard about that? And it's back on again. I'm going to show y'all in a minute. They basically have vowed to take revenge on Trump once again, guys.
That was the beginning of their downfall, because had he not gone, it's possible that we would not be this far advanced in destroying Iran, because he was a really good general. He was a vicious, horrible men.
Absolutely, Gillian. They most definitely is saying that Iran said they will not give up until the Americans leave their country, guys. Meaning they're gonna fight, fight, fight until Trump say we're gone.
But he was a brilliant general.
What's
And he
up,
was looking to
KCL?
knock out 5 of our military bases at one time. And the man that died with him was his counterpart in Iraq. And they were working together. And they got hit real hard. And if that didn't happen, we would have had a problem. But maybe more importantly than that, he was really the mastermind behind it. And they never found somebody to replace him in terms of the genius. I knocked him out. And that was a big step, knocking him out. But if we didn't get rid of the Obama deal, I terminated it against the wishes of my then Secretary of State. He was no Marco. Against the wishes of a lot of people at the time. You remember that, Peter? A lot of people. Had I not terminated, remember that, Stephen? You remember? They were going, no, this is not, that deal was a disaster. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. They would have had it 3 years ago. And it would have been used, I would say, 2 to 3 years ago, and it would have been used in the Middle East. And by the way, after they were finished that, they were coming over here. They never got a chance to do it.
I just want to ask you about something very interesting that you said twice today. That you talked to another former president about the Iran strikes. Was it George W. Bush?
No.
Was it Bill Clinton?
I don't want to say. I don't want to say. Because
Barack Obama.
a member of a party, they have Trump derangement syndrome, but it's somebody that happens to like me, and I like that person who's a smart person. But that person said, I wish I did it. Okay, but I don't want to get into who.
Okay.
I don't want to get him into trouble. Maybe, hey, you know what?
Hey, Ken.
Yeah, I think you probably know. You know, it's interesting. And maybe he'd be proud. And I could even ask him that. Would you like me to reveal your name to Peter at Fox? Well, at least you have high ratings. Your ratings are through the roof, Peter.
Thank you for noticing.
Congratulations.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
If Iran, as you said, totally obliterated, got the missiles, got the first 2 rounds of leadership, Air Force gone, Navy gone, can we wrap this war up this week?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Will we?
I don't think so, but it'll be soon. Won't be long.
Now, another thing is Trump said that he wouldn't deploy American troops onto Iranian soil. Well, guess what, guys? They say that Trump is gearing up to do exactly what he said he wouldn't do. What do y'all think about that?
And we're going to have a much safer world when it's wrapped up. It'll be wrapped up soon. We're going to have a much safer world. I had an obligation to do this. I didn't want to, I call it an excursion. I didn't want to make this journey. We had the highest stock market in history. We had low gas prices. Everything was good. And I know exactly, I know what, you're going to do it. And people are going to increase the price of oil. And that's good. But I know that. But that's a very small thing compared to allowing them to have, you want to see a stock market go down? Start letting them hit you with nukes, okay? I think, I said it this morning.
I see somebody saying a ground invasion would be disastrous. Well, according to the news, that's exactly what Trump is planning to do. Put U.S. troops on Iranian soil.
I think it's a very small price to pay. And frankly, I thought it was going to go down much more, if you want to know the truth. I assumed that it was going to go down much more, only because people don't understand to a large, it's a big chess game at a very high level. It's a very high level chess, the highest. And I'm dealing with very smart players. These are smart people. They don't get there. When you deal with some of these people, you're dealing with high level intellect, very high IQ people. These are not Jasmine Crockett and her group. These are smart people. These are really smart people, and violent people, and vicious people, and some very nice people. And some are very nice but violent. They turn violent. But you know what? If I didn't do what I did, we would have been hit. Number one, very important, was the termination of Obama's horrible deal. And number two, this beautiful plane hitting them 8 months ago, whatever it was. and taking out their nuclear capacity.
Make sure you guys are double tapping that screen if you just got here. That's how you hit the like button. It helps out the channel. Double tap the screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots in the right-hand corner, guys. Hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel, man. You know what I'm saying? Most definitely subscribe if you are new.
That totally threw them for a loop. If they had that bomb at either time, 5 years ago or 7 months ago, if they had that bomb would have been used almost immediately.
Mr. President, 2 questions on domestic policy, bringing it close to home. First of all, the Save America Act, what are you expecting this week when this vote takes place in the U.S. Senate? Will the Vice President's vote be...
I think it's imperative that it gets done. I'm not sure it is. You know, the Democrats have horrible policy. It's just incredible. But they stick together. It's the one thing they do. Their Supreme Court members stick together. Those appointed by a Democrat stick together. If Barack Hussein Obama appoints a member of the Supreme Court, that member never goes against him. And they're proud about it. They say, I don't give a damn if it's good or bad. That man appointed me and I'm never going to let him down. I don't say that's right, wrong. I just say they stick together. Republicans go the opposite way. If Donald Trump appointed me, I'm going to show the world that I can be totally just and I can be independent of Donald Trump. He's not controlling me. And I don't want to control them. I just want to have smart decisions. They gave us a decision on tariffs the other day that won't change tariffs. I can do it a different way. I always knew I could do it a different way. This was a little quicker, a little easier, a little better. But they gave it a decision that could cost this country $500 billion to pay people back. Because now I have to start the tariffs all over again. Very simple. And what happens with the money I've already collected? Why didn't they say, starting from now, go the other way? $500 billion, perhaps. It's so sad. But one thing about the Democrats, they stick together like glue. They impeached me twice for absolutely no reason, unanimously.
They impeached you twice.
The Republicans stuck together, and it was something. It was pretty wild. But the Democrats have horrible policy, transgender for everybody, open borders, men playing in women's sports. But the one thing they do have is they stick together, no matter how bad the policy. It's embarrassing to watch them try to defend it. And in a way I say, as a Republican, in a way I say, thank goodness they have bad policy, because you'd never beat them. We have something in there now, the Save America Act. Voter ID with a picture, right? That's a 99% issue. Even among Democrats, you know, Democrats poll at 89% on that. And then they have proof of citizenship. And then they have no mail-in ballots. No mail-in ballots. We have no mail-in. You go to California, they send out like 38 million ballots. Some Democrats got 7, 8 ballots. Republicans are a lot of times calling in, where's my ballot? Where's my ballot? They're lucky to get one. Jimmy Carter, probably the greatest thing he ever did. I thought he was a nice man, not a great president, to put it mildly. How did his attack work out in Iran? Not too good. I think ours is slightly better, wouldn't you say? But Jimmy Carter, the one thing he did after he left with Scoop Jackson and some others, they formed a very elite council, a committee that came out and said very strongly, no mail-in ballots, because if you have, we're the only country in the world that has mail-in ballots like we do. The only country in the whole world. People have tried it. France tried it and they went away. They're now doing paper ballots, watermark paper, which is very hard to cheat. So when you look at what happens with this country, we really have to fix it. That'll be very popular. The other thing we put in there, just as best of, I call it the best of Trump. We have the 3 things I just said, right? But then I added on no men playing in women's sports, and I added in no transgender surgery, the mutilation of our children. We have no mutilation of our children. no transgender. I think they say that's an 80% issue. I think they're 99% issues, but whether they're 80% or 99, the problem is we have a couple of Republicans. They shouldn't be allowed. They're horrible people, and they're willing to vote against anything. And we have all the Democrats will vote against it. So I think it hurts the Democrats to vote against it, because I'm going to instruct all the Republicans to say that so-and-so that they're running against voted against the saving of our children from transgender mutilation, right? That's pretty unpopular. They want men and women's sports. That's pretty unpopular. They want voter ID, but the Democrats don't. Everybody wants voter ID. Everybody wants proof of citizenship. And most people don't want mail-in voting because they know it's a fraud. Touches too many hands. I mean, if the postman gets it, this one gets it, that one. So these are all issues that are in
need 40 more likes, guys, to hit 200. Double tap that screen if you don't mind. If you're in the building and haven't hit that like button, simply double tap your screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots. Hit that thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're listening to President Trump right now. Tell us his strategies as well as give us updates on what's going on in Iran, guys.
90s to 100. I would say some are virtually 100%. And the interesting thing is they're that way not only with the Republic. I'm not talking about leadership. I'm talking about they're that way also, most importantly, with the people. The people of our country want voter ID. The people of our country want proof of citizenship. And that includes 88%, 89% of Democrats. And I think the Republicans, Eric Schmidt, Rick Scott, Tim Scott, I speak to so many of them. They all want it. I hope John Thune can get it across the line. He's trying. I mean, he told me this morning, I spoke to him, he's trying. I think it'll be
He done kind of went off. He's talking about voter registration
very bad thing.
Let's see if they get him back on board.
Anybody else have any questions?
Will it be necessary to use even a limited ground force to secure whatever nuclear...
Here you go with them asking about the ground forces, guys. Remember I told y'all that they were saying that Trump was trying to put American boots on the ground in Iran, even though he said that he was not. Now he's saying that he is. Let's see what he says right now when they asked him.
Material remains in Iran is part of that threat.
Yeah.
And secondly, have you made a decision?
You mean to go in and get it?
Yes, sir.
Why would I tell you that like that?
And secondly,
You know, I
chose not to answer.
Sir, will you attack Carg Island? Will you occupy Carg? They asked me these questions. And I don't want to be mean, but they're stupid questions. If any president answered those questions,
Trump said they stupid questions.
and
That's a
secondly,
stupid
you,
question.
still plan to travel to Beijing at the end of this
I don't know. We're working on that right now. We're speaking to China. I'd love to, but because of the war, I want to be here. I have to be here, I feel. And so we've requested that we delay it a month or so, and I'm looking forward to being with them. We have a very good relationship, but because of the war, there's no tricks to it either. It's not like, oh, gee, I'm waiting. It's very simple. We got a war going on. I think it's important that I be here. You know? So it could be that we delay a little bit. Not much. Peter?
When you say Cuba is next,
Cuba.
is Cuba, whatever you do with the military there, it seems like something, will that look more like Iran or Venezuela?
Can't tell you that. I can tell you that they're talking to us. It's a failed nation. They have no money, they have no oil, they have no nothing. They have nice land. They have nice landscape, you know. It's a beautiful island. I think they have great people. You know, I know so many people from Cuba that were treated terribly, and they're over here and they became rich. They're very entrepreneurial people, very smart. You know, a lot from Florida especially. There's so many people. A friend of mine started over with nothing. He's now the largest owner of gas stations in the country and stuff. I mean, Cuban. I also know, I was just with a fantastic person who's Cuban and made a fortune in sugar. You know, Van Hool family, right? And this family wants to go back to Cuba to visit it. They haven't been back in like 50 years or something. They largely come from Cuba. And we'll see what happens. They were asking me about that. They want to go back. Not only Van Hool, a lot of Cubans have said, oh boy, would they love to go back. I think Cuba, I don't know, in its own way, for tourism and everything else, it's a beautiful island, great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change, They won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week. But I think Cuba's the end. All my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba.
Wow.
That's a big honor.
He said that did y'all know that all the power is out, right now in Cuba? Trump called Cuba very weak, guys. And y'all heard him right here say, he think that he's going to go take over Cuba, guys. He most definitely called it weak. That's crazy, y'all. Trump is looking to take over Cuba. Yeah, now he's taking Cuba. Yeah, this is wild, guys. This is wild. Yeah, this is wild.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I can do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now. They were for a long time. A very violent.
Gillian, you know what that reminds me of? Who wants some of Debo? Yeah, because he's just gonna take Cuba. Y'all heard him say it. You want some of Debo, old man? Who's next?
Very violent leaders. Castro was a very violent leader. His brothers are very violent leaders. Extremely violent. That's how they governed. They governed with violence. But a lot of people would like to go back. Okay, one more question.
A quick question on fraud for Vice President Vance. Mr. Vice President, you
all right, so we got JD.
That the administration would be halting Medicaid payments to Minnesota until the state decided to take pervasive steps to root out fraud. Do you have an update to that specific situation? Do you think that could be a model moving forward for the task force for states that won't cooperate?
So I don't have an update there. Dr. Oz is looking to it, trying to work with the authorities in Minnesota to try to figure that situation out. But yeah, I think there are two obvious tools that we have to stop the fraud that's happening against the American people. One is that when we see evidence of fraud, we stop the payments. Pretty simple, right? We know that the American people are being defrauded. Let's try to stop the payments and ensure that whoever's making these payments is actually complying with some basic due diligence and making sure the payments are going to the right place. I think the second tool, of course, we have, as the president mentioned, is we have law enforcement options. We know that some of this fraud is just bad. Some of it's criminal. We know that people are intentionally trying to defraud the American people. It's not just in Minnesota, it's all across the country.
99% is criminal.
Yes, sir. So this is one of the reasons why DOJ is such an important part of this, is because we have to make sure that where we see criminal conduct, we actually prosecute it. And the president's talked about this a lot in the past. I don't need to repeat it, but it's worth noting that so many times when we find people engaged in really, really bad conduct, the local judge or the local grand jury tries to stop it. One of the cool things about what we're doing is we're trying to take some innovative steps to ensure that when we find criminal fraud, we can actually prosecute it all the way to the end.
Mr. President,
she wanted one question. She's over here, and you guys are over there. Where's your main camera? Is it this one? Which one is the main camera? Okay, good. Nice center, good. I thought it was that one. Go ahead.
Mr. President, remember with Daily Wire, not CNN. We just wanted to ask about DHS, still not funded, but we reported earlier today that 80% of the primary task force that focuses on investigating terrorism is working without pay. So should that impact
terrible
decisions?
The Democrats aren't paying. The Democrats, we have a deal. They just said we're not going to pay. We're not going to do anything, and it's terrible. The Democrats are terrible. It'd be nice to get along, but for years this has been going on, not just with me. For years it's been going on. Different ideology, but also different tactics. Here we are, we're fighting big battles with a very tough enemy and winning nicely. And we're not allowed to have security in our country. It's crazy. The Democrats don't want to pay.
All right, so Trump basically blaming the Democrats, guys. All right, On to some more breaking news. That was all basically from him and JD Vance giving updates and strategies to what's going on in Iran. Now let's get to the next part of this, which is, y'all remember that Trump had took out the supreme leader in Iran, and they replaced him basically with his son, right? Well, now Trump has took out their top intel official in Iran. Here's some on that.
Because of pressure from Israel and Iran pose no imminent threat to the US. In response, Mr. Trump, one of Donald Trump's top counterterrorism officials, has resigned over the war in Iran. Joe Kent said it's clear the conflict was started because of pressure from Israel and Iran.
Joe Kent, our top intel official has resigned. I told y'all that. And they're going to get into the unaliving of the regime leader, Allah, whatever that says, something else over there in Iran.
Posed no imminent threat to the US. In response, Mr. Trump accused him of being very weak on security. And the president has again lashed out at NATO allies, singling out Sir Keir Starmer, saying America no longer needed help in the war. Well, Sarah Smith is live at the White House for us now. Sarah.
Yeah, officials here are angrily rejecting that accusation that Donald Trump was duped by Israel into declaring war on Iran. They say that is laughable. And they are tearing into Joe Kent, the counterterrorism official, saying that he was kept out of meetings about the Iran war because he was known to be a leaker. They've even called him a crazed egomaniac. But his criticism has struck a chord with many of Donald Trump's own supporters.
A very important topic, especially.
Joe Kent was not the best known figure.
This is Joe Kent right here, man. Our top intel official, who was most definitely down with Trump, guys. This is the guy that basically stepped down and resigned and said that Iran posed no threat to America. Remember, in the beginning, I was telling y'all that he said we have no business over there
in the Trump administration, but he was a true believer who backed the president's policies and even supported his baseless claim that the 2020 election was stolen from him. He had to resign, he says, because the president has abandoned his principle of putting America first. I cannot, in good conscience, support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. This St. Patrick's Day meeting with the Irish Taoiseach was interrupted by questions about Joe Kent's resignation.
When I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country.
Trump said it was a good thing he's out. Wow.
Realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it.
The accusation that the US was dragged into this war by Israel seemed to be supported by America's top diplomat at the start of the war.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties.
War on Iran. A number of popular MAGA influencers are accusing the president of being pushed into this war by Israel.
Our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us. And this feels very much, to me, like it is clearly Israel's war.
It's hard to say this, but the United States...
Oh, man, some of these MAGA supporters, man, are most definitely on Trump tops as well. Man, here go Tucker Carlson, which, this is crazy. They saying that Israel basically pushed us into this war, and that Iran basically posed no threat to us. They may have posed a threat to Israel, but they didn't pose a threat to us, and they don't understand why we're over there in the first place.
Didn't make the decision here. Benjamin Netanyahu did.
President Trump reiterated his deep disappointment with NATO allies who he believes have let him down by not joining the war on Iran, especially the UK and Sir Keir Starmer, damaging that long-standing special relationship.
Always was the best until Keir came along, and I like him. He's a nice man. He says everything beautiful. He's a very nice man with a beautiful family. Everything's perfect, but he doesn't produce.
President Trump also posted online that we no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did. By choosing to go to war with Iran without demonstrating an urgent, imminent threat, Donald Trump has alienated allies and is being accused of betrayal by some of his most dedicated supporters. Sarah Smith, BBC News, Washington.
Meanwhile, President Zelensky, who's been at Westminster today, has told the BBC he has a very bad feeling about the impact of the war in Iran on the war in Ukraine. He says peace talks over the conflict with Russia are being constantly postponed. Earlier, he told a packed room of MPs and peers that the Iranian regime and Vladimir Putin's Russia were brothers in hatred. He's been speaking in an exclusive interview with Laura Kunsberg.
There is another war, one on the edge of our continent, that's been raging for years, not weeks. 4 dead in attacks around Kyiv just days ago. Ukraine's leader back touring Western capitals. President Zelensky arrived to say, "I'm still here. Our conflict continues." The risk, perhaps, as he told us, America is looking elsewhere.
I have a very bad feeling about the impact of this war on the situation in Ukraine.
Yeah, our situation kind of overshadowed right now, you know, the Ukraine-Russia situation. Can't forget about, they got their own personal thing going on as well. This is crazy. Zelensky say he's still alive, though. He's still here.
The focus of America is more on the Middle East than on Ukraine, unfortunately. Therefore, you see that our diplomatic meetings, trilateral meetings, are constantly postponed.
Yes, cut up girl. I see them without their work shirts on, too. You know, it's just about 1 or 2 of them. I already warned them, cut up girl.
There is one reason: war in Iran.
You say they've been delayed. Are they actually happening at all?
President Trump is concentrating on Iran. The negotiations groups are talking among themselves. Our group is talking to the American side every day. I know that Americans are talking to the Russians every day too.
You're gambling with World War III.
He knows what it's like to be the focus of Donald Trump's frustration.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful.
Just over a year ago, one president's jaw-dropper targeting another. But now, it's the UK leader being criticised from the same gold perch. Almost every day.
You see that man right there? You know who that is? Churchill. Winston Churchill. The late, great Winston Churchill. You know, unfortunately, Keir is not Winston Churchill.
It's so much more than drama.
Putin can't be the one who's benefiting.
Maybe a risky wrench in a vital alliance. Not just in the US and the UK, but to the fortunes of Ukraine.
I can't tell Trump what to do. Keir is a smart and very cool partner, absolutely. We know there are emotions in everyone in different ways. I think that Keir, he's in touch with President Trump. He can meet with him and he can reload the relationship again.
Do you believe that President Trump and his actions have made the world more dangerous?
I will not have a fair answer to this. I will probably not be able to. I always try to speak objectively, not subjectively. I believe that any split of NATO will weaken both sides. I would really like President Trump to meet with Starmer, central countries, so they have a common position.
Common positions? All the photo ops in the world won't end conflicts alone. Handshakes, no substitute for hard power. Laura Kunsberg, BBC News.
Well, in the last hour, Iranian media has confirmed that a key advisor to the late...
All right, so here we go with the latest passing of one of Iran's top leaders, guys.
Supreme leader has been killed in an Israeli missile strike. Ali Larijani was filmed last week marching with government supporters. The US had put him on their most wanted list. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has also confirmed the death of Golem Reza Soleimani, the head of a prominent paramilitary force killed in another Israeli attack. Overnight, Iranian missiles struck neighboring Iraq, where the US embassy in Baghdad came under drone and rocket attacks. Israel has continued its aerial and ground assault in Lebanon, targeting the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah, and in central Israel, an Iranian attack involving what's believed to be cluster munitions damaged cars, a bus, and a train station. Well, Jeremy Bowen is with me now. So, confirmation,
guys.
Jeremy, in the last hour, Ali Larijani, a senior figure in the regime, he's now dead.
Yep, and this is part of Israel's mission. It's very clearly, explicitly stated war aim to try to destroy the regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran by wiping out its leadership as well as...
All right, let's stop this right here and get more into the unaliving of this leader over there in Iran, guys.
Doha in Qatar. I'm Marianne Bashiri. Well, let's begin now with breaking news, and that is that Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz says the Secretary of Iran's National Security Council, Ali Larijani, was assassinated in overnight strikes on Iran. Ali Larijani was a former nuclear negotiator for Iran and a close ally of the late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed on the first day of this war. Israeli media are reporting that Larijani was attacked with his son in a hideout apartment. Straight now to our Middle East correspondent Yolande Nell in Jerusalem. What more have we been hearing from Israel Katz, Yolande?
So this was just a short statement that Israel Katz put out, basically confirming that Ali Larijani had been eliminated and saying that he and the Israeli Prime Minister had instructed the Israeli military to, in his words, continue hunting down the Iranian leadership. And already we had it said by an Iranian military official that Ali Larijani had been targeted overnight. He is the secretary of the National Security Council, so a very powerful figure in Iran, and also somebody who was internationally well known. So if this is completely confirmed, it would be the most senior figure in Iran to confirm to have been killed since the supreme leader on the first day of the war. He is somebody who was a close ally of the late supreme leader and is believed to have become more powerful in the past 2 weeks, of course, in the late supreme leader's absence, with his son chosen to take over from him. He was seen in public just last Friday at the Quds Day rallies that were taking place in Tehran, going around talking to people in the crowd, supporters of the regime. He was somebody who had been a negotiator on the nuclear issues for Iran, so he was well known on the international stage for really that reason. And Iranian state media had interestingly said that they were going to publish a message.
So I guess it's true, just like Trump said. He is most definitely knocking down the Iranian leadership, guys, as another top official has been unalive. I think that it's officially 2 of them. It's three of them that we know of, but 2 of them was taken out, last night.
From Ali Larijani, but all that has come out on the state news agency is a handwritten note from him about the funeral of some Iranian naval soldiers. So we certainly haven't had any confirmation coming from that direction that he is still alive.
We've also been hearing, haven't we, from the Israelis, the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, saying that Israel will continue hunting down Iran's leaders. That's been something we've heard before as well, isn't it, Yolande?
Indeed, and it's also been announced today by the Israeli military that they have killed the commander of the besieged paramilitary force, part of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, Gholam Reza Soleimani. It's been said that he was attacked while in a tent that he was using with other commanders of that force, which was very prominent recently, putting down the protests in Iran.
So Soleimani has been unalived, and so has Larijani. Those are 2 top officials over there in Iran that were unalived last night, guys. So that's 3 total that we know of.
And that they have been using that sort of temporary base because of the destruction by Israel and the US of their other bases in Tehran and around the country.
Yolande, thank you very much indeed for that. Yolande Nell there, who is bringing us the very latest from Jerusalem. Well, let's just take you now to speak to Ali Vaez. Ali Vaez is from International Crisis Group. He is an Iran expert and joins me now. Ali, can I just ask you first of all to give me an update, if you can, on what more we know about Ali Larijani? How significant is this if he has indeed been assassinated?
It is a very significant development, Mariam, because he was basically running the country under the current circumstances. He was a former Speaker of Parliament, former National Security Advisor, and was returned to this position as a National Security Advisor after the 12-day war last year. He comes from a clerical family and has deep connections to the Revolutionary Guards, and was indeed running the war efforts along with Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, the Speaker of the Parliament. So if indeed he has been eliminated, it's another major setback for the Iranian leadership, but it doesn't mean that it would create a political vacuum. I think Ghalibaf will probably gain more power, and the more Israel continues to shave off the top layer of Iranian leadership, the more likely it is that these experienced, more pragmatic people will be replaced by more hot-headed, radical Revolutionary Guards commanders.
So you don't think this is necessarily a victory for Israel and the US in terms of moving the regime away from power?
Not necessarily, because at the end of the day, what keeps the regime in power at home is the repressive apparatus of the Revolutionary Guards, which seems to remain fully in control of the internal sphere. And they have literally several hundred thousand, if not millions of men under arms, whereas the Iranian people are unarmed and unorganized. So there is definitely a imbalance in terms of monopoly of force inside the country. And what gets basically the system to stay on its feet and continue punching back is, again, the Revolutionary Guards leadership. And there are several layers of succession that were put in place for every commander. And so the Iranian system is not just deeply entrenched, it's also deeply benched.
Is it so deeply entrenched that this type of warfare will find it impossible to make any changes within the regime? Because that's what a lot of analysts have been telling me. They've been telling me 47 years of entrenchment means that you don't just destroy this.
So Trump has taken out 2 Iranian officials, you know, overnight, guys. Soleimani and Larry Juni. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Regime from the sky in this way.
Absolutely. Without boots on the ground, it's very hard to imagine how you can loosen the grip of a regime like this on power. This is why in other cases in Iraq, there were American boots on the ground, in Afghanistan or in Libya or in Syria. At the end of the day, you needed to have a mixture of indigenous and foreign boots on the ground. In the case of Iran, I think it's quite similar to the conclusions that President Trump came to in Venezuela, that he understood that the regime is really entrenched and hard to remove at a low cost. And so he decided to make a deal with some elements of the system. Now, elimination of people like Larijani.
Now, somebody down there talking about he's still alive. No, he's not. You know, basically they're saying that Trump has blood on his hand, guys. Let's go.
And we're starting with this, the latest on Operation Epic Fury.
This is what happens when you don't want to negotiate. Israel unleashing fresh strikes on Iranian terror proxies in Lebanon as Iran retaliates, targeting central Israel with dangerous cluster missiles.
Yep, let's go to Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst live in Tel Aviv as Israel reveals it has taken out another top Iranian official. Trey.
He's most definitely not alive, guys.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. A senior Israeli official telling Fox News that Ismail Khatib, Iran's intelligence minister, was killed in a precision strike overnight. Khatib was responsible for managing Iran's global cells, these sleeper cells in countries around the world that even threatened U.S. politicians and President Trump. This official says this man had blood on his hands, American blood. They go on to say that Khatib was actually the only person to survive the opening round of strikes in Operation Epic Fury that killed Iran's supreme leader. Those 40 officials killed in around 40 seconds. All of this taking place as we're tracking new incoming fire from Iran. Overnight, missiles soared through the skies of central Israel. Some of them intercepted. Others had cluster munitions on top. And you can see in this aftermath video here, just outside of Tel Aviv, flames spewing from a parking area beneath a building.
This is what we're doing to Iran, guys. This is footage from Iran with the cluster bombs that we are, or missiles that we are dropping over there, guys.
Around the central part of the country, 2 people were killed in the area of Ramat Gan. We just returned from that site where we were interviewing a military spokesperson. A significant amount of damage to apartments there. All of this was taking place as the Israelis launched a fresh round of strikes against the Lebanese capital of Beirut, going after Iran's largest proxy there in the Dakhla neighborhood. These strikes took place following new Hezbollah rocket fire into central and southern Israel. You can see here the strikes in Lebanon that took place overnight, and the aftermath video there in Beirut. An entire apartment building was taken out in one of those strikes. Now, the Israelis are not just striking Lebanon, they are also striking Iran with a new wave of strikes today. And we know that yesterday the besieged forces, this wing of the IRGC, were targeted there at their checkpoints around the Iranian capital of Tehran. President Trump was asked yesterday about the threat from Iran. Here's what he had to say.
So they've been a threat for a long time, but they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had
Trump. There's people that say you're lying
again if we didn't bomb the site.
The most important thing to look at here is Iran's ability to deliver missiles to Israel and regional countries. And that was the concern that President Trump was talking about there. Iran was pursuing a nuclear weapon, and if they could attach that weapon to the top of a ballistic missile, it would be landing in regional countries or allies like Israel. And that was what the president has described as an imminent threat against the United States, its forces in the region, and of course allies like Israel. Guys?
So Trey, the Wall Street Journal goes into detail about what the Israelis and our intelligence officers are doing to help get the I guess country ready for a takeover. And what they do is they try to bomb the headquarters. They bomb the headquarters, flushing out these leaders who've set up shop either in underpasses or in tents. And if they get blown out of those tents and underpasses, they were told to go to sports complexes. And when they gather, then they take them out. So it's a systematic way to take out their leadership. They're also, Mossad is evidently contacting leaders and saying, you're on a blacklist, you got a choice. Leave right now, join the people, or you're dead. And
can we get 50 more people to double tap their screen, guys? We are 50 away from 300. Double tap their screen if you're on a mobile device, or click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up, guys. We're getting the latest on what's going on in Iran, guys, regarding this war, man. You know, let's make sure we're subscribing to the channel of Renew as well.
Essentially responding to this by saying, I'll leave. Are you hearing some of this stuff, some stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a real-time intelligence apparatus working behind the scenes to identify where these officials are and to take them out. The strike that took out Khatib, was a joint intelligence effort, we are told, by the United States and Israel to go after not just the leadership of Iran, but also the support staff. And that is why you saw those strikes yesterday in Tehran going after the besieged forces. These are ground forces. They're individuals who are in the streets manning checkpoints to basically instill fear into the population so that they won't come to the streets. And that's exactly what the United States and Israel wants to avoid. They want to give the Iranian people the ability to peacefully demonstrate if they decide to do so. And that was what we saw earlier this year, a crackdown ordered by these top officials and these forces on the ground. And so this intelligence apparatus that's operating in real time behind the scenes is allowing them to identify who these individuals are, who ordered the crackdown against protesters, and then to take them out in airstrikes.
So I'm sorry, Hansel, go ahead.
Thank you.
So these are the people that's been taken out so far, guys. Latest top Iranian leaders unalive by U.S. and Israel strikes, guys. We got Soleimani, Larry, Johnny, and whoever this guy is right here. So it's 3 total, just like I told y'all earlier, guys, that Israel and Trump basically have taken out over there in Iran.
So, Trey, Donald Trump has said this week that Iran is talking to our people and they want to make a deal. And Brian was talking about how the foreign minister over in Iran was texting with Wickoff. And Wickoff announced that, and he said, no, I didn't do that. Well, we obviously trust the Trump administration versus the leadership in Iran. What's the truth here?
Yeah, the Iranians also say they're not targeting civilians, and we just returned from an apartment where 2 elderly people were murdered in a cluster munition strike. They also say they're not targeting Gulf countries, and they're targeting Gulf countries each and every day. They've said that they've not tried to mine the strait and that they are not posing any threat to the region, but yet they are firing ballistic missiles toward the U.S. Embassy in Iraq, for example, and launching drones and missiles through their proxies, the Shia militias there. And so oftentimes we hear these statements from the Iranian regime.
And that's crazy that those are all missiles, guys. Missiles, they look like fireworks.
They don't match the reality on the ground. And so we can expect to have them deny internally that they are trying to reach a deal with the United States. But again, we have to think back before this war began. Before Operation Epic Fury started, Steve Witkoff, the U.S. Special Envoy, was speaking on a daily basis directly with Iran's foreign minister. So it's not surprising that they would be speaking now.
But Trey, this intelligence chief, Khatib, had a dual role. Obviously, he's the Minister of Intelligence, but he also reported part of the IRGC. And he was responsible for a lot of this hacking that's going on, and also the intelligence that was targeting the civilians. Is there anyone below him now that has that role?
The Iranians have prepared for this possibility that their entire leadership structure would be targeted in airstrikes. And so they have people that can step into these positions. But when we think about the bloody resumes of these individuals, it's substantial, because the sleeper cells and the individuals who are operating around the world on behalf of Iran to commit acts of terrorism, they're ordered by people like Ismail Khatib.
That's right.
This official told me, and I want to just read you the quote that I obtained earlier from a senior Israeli official. This official said, this man had American blood on his hands. His network specifically targeted current and former U.S. officials, including President Donald Trump. And so, again, this gives you a sense of just how dangerous these individuals are. They do have the ability to pass off the baton to other officials in Tehran to continue these activities, and they will likely do so. But the Israeli officials have described it to Fox News as a hunting effort. They say they will hunt down these officials, and every time that they replace someone who's taken out in a strike with American and Israeli intelligence, that combination, they will go after them each and every day.
Yeah, if you can get that internet on, that'll lay the groundwork for the people of Iran to rise up when they have a reasonable chance at success.
And eventually, the people that are next in line, they're going to say, I don't want that job. I'm going to get killed. Hopefully. All right, thank you so much, Trey.
So they are most definitely unalive leaders over there, guys.
With more on how the president's relationship with NATO is shaping the operation. Steve.
Brian, the president's comments come as the U.S. hits Iranian positions hard around the Strait of Hormuz. The Air Force using those massive 5,000-pound bunker buster bombs. They're GPS guided, and their targets are often...
Did y'all hear what size they are? 5,000 pounds. Just like I told y'all earlier, guys, make sure y'all double tapping that screen. That's how you hit the like button, or click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new.
It's Iranian positions hard around the Strait of Hormuz. The Air Force using those massive 5,000-pound bunker buster bombs. They're GPS guided, and their targets are often anti-ship missiles right around that key Strait of Hormuz. Some of those missiles buried deep into the ground or in hardened sites, and that was being blown up over the past 24 hours. And as you mentioned, the president sharply criticizing NATO allies for their lack of assistance in trying to keep the strait open. Here's President Trump.
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually. We've wiped out their Navy, wiped out their military in every aspect. Their Air Force is now decimated. They have no Air Force, no Navy. I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake, and I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
The president also pointing out that the U.S. supplied hundreds of billions of dollars for aid in Ukraine in its war against Russia, but yet Europe has failed to provide a single minesweeper in the conflict with Iran. Guys, back to you.
Thanks so much, Steve. Meanwhile, just to build on what he was saying, so far France has said, yeah, we'll join after the conflict is over.
We don't need you then.
Thanks. So the president is, according to Lindsey Graham, he's never seen him angrier than when this all came down, when Japan and all these others said, yeah, we're not going to be doing that. Now, in their defense, they'd say, we needed a run up to this, where you're hitting us now, but you need a run up. For intelligence reasons, we decided not to tell you. But having said that, you know the number one threat over the last 40 years has been here. You know you get all your oil from there. You're seeing this take place, how you're all going to benefit from this. And now you could say, hey, it's going to take me a few days to get my destroyers fitted in order to do that. I understand that. But to just say no, the Strait of Hormuz, look, we could pull out of there. We get 3% of our oil from there. You know who can't afford that? Japan, the rest of Europe. Our allies in the region.
How much Japan gets? 95%.
90%. Yeah. It's also important to note that it didn't start this way. At first, the president put the pressure on these nations. Just let us refuel at the bases. That's where it started. And when they denied that, it ticked him off. And he was like, okay, will you at least help us with the war? Are you going to you don't want any involvement, no public support at all? So now he's using this as more as a litmus test. I mean, look at the operations on the ground. The Israelis and the United States government, we really don't need the help. We have been destroying them. But now this has become a test to these countries that often get financial support from us.
And we don't want to forget the troops. We do support the people that are out there fighting for our country.
Meanwhile, join Fox in supporting our troops from daily needs to global emergencies. Help us be there for those who serve.
You can scan the QR code right there on your screen, or you can visit go.fox/Red Cross to donate to.
All right, so we find out about their three. Okay, so with that happening, guys, Iran has vowed revenge. And basically, they taking it out in Tel Aviv, guys. Let's go.
Video from an Iranian news agency shows what it says are missiles fired toward Israel in retaliation for the killing of top national security advisor Ali Larijani. He and the leader of an Iranian paramilitary group were among those killed in an Israeli strike late Monday. And authorities in central Israel say at least 2 people were killed by what appeared to be a cluster munition strike. Several neighborhoods and a train station were damaged.
CNN Jeremy Diamond joins us now from the scene. What more can you tell us about the attack, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's right, Anderson. We are in Ramat Gan, just outside of Tel Aviv, where 2 people were killed in the latest Iranian ballistic missile attack. This is as a result of what appear to be cluster munitions that Iran has increasingly been outfitting to the warheads of its ballistic missiles. And at this scene, one of those smaller bomblets appears to have made a direct impact. I want to pan up here to that balcony that you may be able to see that is destroyed there. Part of that apartment as well suffered a serious blow. 2 people, apparently in their 70s, an elderly couple, were killed by the blast. Paramedics said that they arrived on the scene and found them both unconscious without any sign of life and pronounced them dead at the scene. They did not make it into a bomb shelter as those air raid sirens sounded. But Anderson, this is just one of what appear to be multiple impacts across the Tel Aviv area. We've seen videos in neighboring communities outside of Tel Aviv as well. We also saw one of Tel Aviv's train stations that appears to have been hit by one of those
So they are fighting back, guys.
And from the videos that we saw earlier tonight of that ballistic missile coming in, this appears to be a larger variety of Iran's ballistic missile. They have something called the Khorramshahr in their arsenal that can deploy up to 80 of these cluster submunitions, as opposed to the normal 24 bomblets that we've been seeing with the missiles that they traditionally use in their attacks here. And this brings the total now of people killed in Israel due to Iran's attacks to 14, and Iran showing once again that despite the fact that some 70% of their ballistic missile launchers have been destroyed, their air defense capacities obliterated, so much of their military infrastructure devastated, they are still showing capacities to exert a price on both the U.S. and Israel, and here getting through Israel's air defenses, and in this instance tonight, killing 2 people. Anderson?
Has the pace of, I assume the pace of incoming Iranian attacks has certainly slowed since the start of this. Have they decreased much in recent days?
There hasn't been a huge change in recent days, but we've been seeing, multiple ballistic missile barrages fired at Israel. What has changed is the number of missiles. We're sometimes seeing just single ballistic missiles being fired by Iran, but again, they're outfitting many of those missiles with these cluster munitions that can deliver smaller impacts across a wide area, as much as 7 or 8 miles in certain...
This is crazy, guys. They're most definitely fighting back, guys.
Instances. We're also seeing Iran increasingly coordinating its attacks with Hezbollah, which today alone fired dozens of rockets in a single barrage towards northern Israel. Sometimes Iran and Hezbollah firing their rockets and missiles at the same time to try and overwhelm Israel's air defenses. We're certainly not seeing the kinds of impacts in Israel from direct hits of those larger warheads on the ballistic missiles from Iran, likely because they don't have the capacity to fire such large barrages so that one of those missiles perhaps makes it through, and instead they're resorting to these cluster munitions, which, again, if people stay in their shelters, are likely not going to be deadly. Those shelters do protect quite well against what is a relatively small explosive here, but in this case, as you can see, a couple in their 70s apparently didn't make it to the bomb shelter and were killed directly on impact, it would seem, from one of those smaller cluster submunitions.
This attack is in response to the death of Ali Larijani, top security official in Iran, and
It is in retaliation, guys. Look at those missiles.
Reza Soleimani. So let's talk about Soleimani first. He was the leader of the Basij militia, which, if you're trying to keep track of everything that is part of the Iranian security apparatus, that is essentially the volunteer militia of people who are trying to keep the Iranian populace in line with the regime and suppress dissent. So that guy in charge of that operation, Ali Larijani, in charge of the security apparatus writ large, and also one of the main figures in nuclear negotiations. So this is an attack in response to the death of those two people. We heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu earlier today, and he said essentially that they are not done and that they could be targeting, certainly he is not off limits, the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. Listen to a soundbite from the Prime Minister of Israel. He references Nowruz, which is the Persian New Year, which comes up first day of spring on Saturday, in addition to the Fire Festival, which is celebrated right before Persian New Year.
In the past 24 hours, we knocked out 2 of the terrorist chieftains, the top terrorist chieftains of this tyranny. Our aircraft are hitting the terror operatives on the ground, in the crossroads, in the city squares. This is meant to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire. So celebrate and Happy Nowruz. We're watching from above.
Joining me now is Hassan Al-Hassan, a senior fellow for the Middle East policy at the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Hassan, great to have you with us. And it's quite a moment here where you see the killing of Ali Larijani, and so many questions about what this means for Iran's decision-making structure. Who is going to replace him? Has this degraded the regime? What is your assessment of this move of removing a heavyweight like Larijani?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I think it's quite clear that Larijani has been one of the key influential figures within the Iranian regime that has been calling the shots alongside a few others. He is a veteran of this system in Iran. He has served within the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. He commands wide respect and is able to really bring together and work across factions and institutions. And he, I think, really plays an important role in ensuring the cohesion of a regime that is under immense stress and pressure because of US and Israeli military strikes. There are reports that Larijani was heading negotiations, potentially, and orchestrating at least negotiations with the United States behind the scenes. In any case, he was definitely one of the few people who would eventually be able to pull the right levers within the Iranian system for a would-be diplomatic solution, if at all. So I think by taking out Ali Larijani, I think Israel is, on the one hand, most certainly trying to spoil, I think, any chances for a ceasefire. I think as far as Israel
say they spoiled it, oh man.
Concerned, there are far-reaching objectives that have yet to be accomplished in Iran. The immediate effect of this
would be, I think, a strengthening of the IRGC's hold, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps' hold over decision-making in Iran. So Ali Larijani was one of the few figures who could work with the IRGC, but who could also ensure that he was also orchestrating and ensuring cohesion with other factions within the regime. And now that he's gone, there are other factions that still command, and other personalities that still command respect. But I think what Israel is really getting at here, it's really destroying, I think, the connective tissue that holds all of these factions and institutions of the Iranian regime together. So I think this clearly
So, I mean, I wonder, Hassan,
disintegrating.
Yeah, so disintegrating the structure, right? And I get what you're saying, and I wonder what we need to look out for in the next few days, because it would normally be the president that would be appointing, replacement for this position. Who could be the replacement?
I don't know. It's too soon to tell, and there are a number of personalities who could rise to that. I haven't seen any credible indications to suggest who could succeed him in his place. It almost seems like a death sentence, I think, at this point, for whoever is going to be nominated to succeed Ali Larijani, because I think it's clear.
He said it seems like an unalive sentence for whoever could be appointed to step up in Soleimani's place, but that Iran is most definitely seeking revenge, guys.
The Israelis will keep targeting the top layer of Iranian defense and political and clerical leadership in order to truly disintegrate the structure. I think this is what the Israeli objective is at the moment, and hitting at that connective structure, I think, gets them there. And don't get me wrong, countries in the region, like the Gulf states, as much as they wanted to avoid and avert this war, there isn't any sympathy or love lost for someone like Ali Larijani, who not only was probably overseeing the crushing of the Iranian protests, but really has been overseeing the Iranian lashing out against Gulf cities and infrastructure.
All right, so we got that news. So basically, now they are saying that they believe that the supreme leader, which was the son of the last supreme leader that Trump unalives, they are believing now that he is also unalive as well, and saying that if he's alive, he needs to show proof of life, guys. Check this out.
Let's get straight into Operation Epic Fury. Israel says they expect the fighting to last at least 3 more weeks as Iran ramps up retaliatory strikes on its neighbors in the region.
Let's go to Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yinks. He's live from Tel Aviv with the latest. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, hey, Lawrence, good morning. The Israelis and the Americans are going after new targets today across Iran, striking the capital city of Tehran and a variety of positions in western Iran. They're putting new pressure on the regime, and we heard from U.S. Central Command this morning, who indicated that more than 100 Iranian Navy vessels have been taken out since Operation Epic Fury began just over 2 weeks ago. Into the 3rd week of this operation, you can see some video here from the Iranian capital overnight. Black smoke rising from the horizon after a significant strike there. Again, not only the storage facilities of Iranian missiles are being targeted, but also the production lines to prevent the Iranian regime from rearming. As these strikes continue, they are expected to intensify in the hours and days ahead. International focus does remain on the Strait of Hormuz, where the Trump administration has indicated they're calling on other countries around the world to participate in pressuring the Iranians and allowing the safe passage of vessels. This is where 20% of the world's oil passes through on a regular basis. President Trump was asked this weekend about that possible coalition.
We're talking to countries about policing the streets, because they are the ones, we don't get oil, very little, 1%, 2%. But China, as an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the Hormuz Strait. Nice to have other countries police that with us, and we'll help, we'll work with militarily.
As the United States and Israel put this pressure on Iran, there are still ongoing attacks against Israel and Gulf countries. There are far fewer due to the fact they've been quite successful in hitting the launching positions of these ballistic missiles. There was a number of impacts in Israel on Sunday. You can see in this aftermath video here the result of a cluster munition that wasn't launched toward a military target, but rather the civilians of Tel Aviv. The Iranians still talking tough, and
Iran is most definitely fighting back, guys.
I think our armed forces have already answered that they would retaliate if our oil and energy infrastructure are attacked. And they will attack any energy infrastructure in the region which belongs to an American company or an American company is a shareholder. So the reaction would be clear.
The reality is the Iranians are already targeting civilian infrastructure all around the Gulf. But as this is taking place, the Israelis are looking to the east, but also to the north, to the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. You can see some strikes here that took place in the aftermath in the Dakhia neighborhood of southern Beirut. We also learned overnight Israel has formally now launched a ground operation into southern Lebanon to bring the fight against Hezbollah. This is described to Fox News as a limited operation at this point. Reports do indicate hundreds of thousands of Israeli reservists could be called up in the event of an expanded maneuver. Guys?
So far, Hamas is staying out of it, even saying some things that that they're distancing from the war specifically, right?
Yeah, there are a number of regional proxies in the area that actually haven't yet gotten involved in this war. And that's not to mention the Houthis in Yemen that still have drones and ballistic missiles that they could fire at Israel or Gulf countries if they decided to get more directly involved. At this point, though, it has been contained, at least from the perspective of the Israelis, to a two-front conflict. Guys?
All right.
Thank you, Trey. All right, now let's go to Steve Harrigan, who's live at the Iran-Armenian border as speculation grows now about Iran's new supreme leader. Steve, we're all
Being
interested.
unalive, guys.
Is the new guy,
they
is he
saying
alive?
the new guy's gone.
That's really the key question. Is this 56-year-old Muqtada al-Sadr alive, Muqtada al-Khamenei alive or not? Certainly, President Trump has raised the issue. He stated earlier today, speaking to NBC News, he said, I don't know if he's even alive. So far, nobody's been able to see him. There's speculation that he's been wounded as well, so it's not clear whether the 56-year-old is alive or not. But some interesting questions, too, have been raised about Mojtaba Khamenei's capability to actually be a leader of Iran. CBS News, in speaking about an intelligence report, a U.S. intelligence report, said that the supreme leader who was killed on the first day of the war actually did not want his son to follow his footsteps as supreme leader. That report reads, the elder Khamenei was wary of his son ever taking power because he was perceived as not very bright and was viewed as unqualified to be leader, according to sources. So 56-year-old, the new supreme leader, hasn't been seen in public. Now reports from intelligence saying he's not very smart. He's had personal problems. But the key thing is, in 2 weeks of war, he has not been seen. All his statements have been read out. So a real mystery surrounding the 56-year-old who's supposed to be in charge. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, Steve, I also heard reports that they think he's gay. And what would that be like to be a gay guy in Iran and be a leader?
There are reports that he had some trouble procreating and had to get some help with that a couple of times. So some major question marks about the heir apparent, a Nepo baby in Iran.
All right.
But they voted. That group voted.
So they're alleging that the new supreme leader of Iran might like people of the same sex, guys. That's crazy. Woo-wee, man. No, ain't that against their religion? But anyway, you know, with the speculation growing, there is most definitely a lot of people who are asking, where is the new supreme leader? And basically, there are challenges being made for him to show his face if he's still alive, guys.
The Middle East, the United States and Israel pounding targets inside Iran incessantly at this point. President Trump says that radical Islamic regime's air defenses are being decimated. CENTCOM with an update.
To date, our Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps aviators have collectively flown more than 6,000 combat flights, demonstrating the unmatched capability of America's joint force. We continue to remain centered on our military objectives. These are well-defined and include eliminating Iran's ballistic missiles, drones, and naval threats. It's one thing to defend by striking launchers and intercepting missiles and drones, but it's another thing to eliminate the wider manufacturing apparatus behind them. And we are doing that today.
Let's take a look together. Before and after photographs show the destruction of the Iranian military infrastructure, from drone factories to storage depots.
the scope of the conflict is widening now. So from left to right of your screen, what was and now what isn't. Israel announced the start of ground operations targeting Iran-backed Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon today. And I'm going to ask Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar about that in a moment with an exclusive here on the Faulkner Focus. First, let's go to Trey Yinks in Tel Aviv. Trey.
Harris, good morning. We're now in week 3 of Operation Epic Fury, and overnight the Israelis announced they've launched a ground operation into southern Lebanon. Officials telling Fox News this is considered limited right now, but we have some new video of Israeli forces there bringing the fight against Iran's largest proxy, Hezbollah. You can see in this video taken overnight, these ground troops are supported by tanks and additional ground units that are being used to go slowly into this Hezbollah-controlled territory and try to push back against the incoming rocket fire and ground attacks that are being launched by this proxy group. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz saying this earlier today.
The IDF has begun a ground maneuver in Lebanon to remove threats and protect the residents of the Galilee and the north. The hundreds of thousands of Shiite residents of southern Lebanon will not return to their homes south of the Litani region until the safety of the northern residents is guaranteed.
The Israelis still striking Lebanon across the board, hitting the Dakhil neighborhood of southern Beirut. You can see the aftermath video here. This is a Hezbollah stronghold where the terror group uses buildings to launch their commands for attacks against Israel. Even earlier today, sirens sounding across northern cities amid incoming drone and rocket attacks. The Israelis still looking to the east, though, where they are launching alongside U.S. forces new strikes against the Iranian regime, targeting infrastructure in the capital of Tehran and also going after many of those ballistic missile launching positions in the western part of the country. They say they've taken out 70% of those launchers so far. International focus, though, still remains on the Strait of Hormuz amid incoming Iranian attacks against Gulf countries and a new statement over the weekend by Iran's foreign minister.
The Americans are asking for other countries to come and help them so that the Strait of Hormuz remains open, which, of course, from our perspective, is open. It is only closed to our enemies, to those who carried out unjust aggression against our country and to their allies.
It's easy for the foreign minister of Iran to say that the Strait of Hormuz is open to vessels that are traveling through. What he didn't mention is that the Iranians are launching surface-to-surface missiles and drones at vessels in the Persian Gulf. Harris.
Wow. Yeah, that's an important part. The fact that they're still on the offensive at this point in terms of energy. Great reporting as always. Trey Yinks, thank you very much. Gideon Sa'ar is the Israeli foreign minister, and I welcome him to the Faulkner Focus exclusively today. Look, I want to start with talking about the supreme leader, the new one that they say they've selected and put in place in Iran, Muqtada and Khomeini, and just get your thoughts, dead or alive. There are conflicting reports. I want to start there.
They want to know if he's alive.
You asked a good question. Where is Mujtaba? I mean, they elected the leader.
That is him right there.
He's not there. You can hide, but it's better to show up. You can have a video and prove you are alive. It's starting to be embarrassing for the Iranian regime. So let's see, where is Mujtaba? It's an open question.
And Israel said they want to know where you at. Americans say they want to know where you at. They trying to get you. They say show your face if you're alive.
And what have your intelligence people been able to gather that you can share at this point, not just on his whereabouts, but what does the military and governmental infrastructure look like inside of that country now? Can they regather? Can they galvanize again quickly?
Well, a huge portion, most of it, of their not only military capabilities, but also military industries were destroyed, but we still have work to do there. And it is very important to keep this mad country. We see how they are acting against all their neighboring states, including the Arab states. They are shooting unprovoked on each of these states. They also use something which is close to modern piracy in the Strait of Hormuz. It is something very dangerous. The Houthis started to do that in the Red Sea during the war against us, but now it might become like a new practice of mad regimes and that will affect the cost of the living everywhere. So they want to take the whole global community as an hostages. That must be stopped, and I think that we are lucky to have a world leader like President Trump that stood up to the challenge and is a leader in deeds. Think how much the world was safer if in previous decades we would have leaders that confronted that. For example, when North Korea tried to develop nuclear weapon, and eventually they did that because the threats that President Clinton said then was not translated to deeds. And now it's much less safer for the neighbors, for Japan, for North Korea. So it is very important when you see such a challenge to the world's security to act. And I think, as I said, we are lucky to have President Trump on board in the U.S. as much as we have Prime Minister Netanyahu here in Israel.
You know, one of the concerns that we've been kind of watching from interviewing and talking with just the public here in America is how the two countries, yours and ours, are working together. And I'm wondering, from your point of view in Israel as foreign minister, what is your political objective at this moment? Is it regime change? Roaring Lion and Operation Epic Fury are different militarily, but their goals and their objectives are what for you?
Well, from our perspective, we want to remove for the long term existential threats from the state of Israel. It is not our wish to go to a new war every year. So it is possibly very hard to do that with the current Med regime in Iran. So now we are trying to weaken this regime by hurting its, I would say, repressive branches like Revolutionary Guards, like the Besiege, making it, I would say, possible for the Iranian people to get their freedom, to get their liberty. Eventually, it will be up to them, not to us. But honestly, it was not possible to do that, and it is not possible to do that without any kind of external help, because we saw what the regime had done. They killed and they butchered thousands and thousands of their own people, and no one came to help them. So I believe that we should do our utmost, of course, to degrade their power to threaten all this region, but in the same time to try to create the conditions for the Iranian people in order to make this change possible.
Well, Foreign Minister, the United States came to help them. The President of the United States, Trump, promised to try to help the Iranian people get to the place where they could take their country back. Those are my words, not his. But to step up in their own freedom. And now with both countries, yours and ours, working together, you can achieve so much militarily. But he did mean to and has come to help. How much more optimistic are you now than you were, say, 3 weeks ago before this entire thing began, about peace in the Middle East, or at least an understanding that Iran won't threaten the way it used to because of Israel and the United States?
Hey, Nika.
I think we are already in a situation when Iran is much weaker. Iran is not the country it was 3 weeks ago. It is clearly not the country before the operation of June 2025. So altogether, President Trump had done that. And also the capabilities of this regime to threaten everyone is decreased significantly. And with the issue of the Iranian people, I think we saw they have this desire for freedom, and I believe they will demonstrate that in the future. Of course, it is dangerous. It's not a regime that tolerates liberty wishes, but I believe that we saw that this wish is very strong among the Iranian people, and we will see it in the future. This is my belief.
Look, the really lingering question all over the world is what brings this to an end? Your quick thought on that, Foreign Minister.
Well, in war, you should have objectives more than a timeline. If you have a timeline, and you say it publicly, and your enemy hears that, obviously, it doesn't help you to get your objectives. So I'll stay with that.
Foreign Minister Sarr, it is great to have you on the program today.
So you heard him basically, speak on how Israel feels about this, and that basically they feel like, hey, the new supreme leader may not be a leader at all because he may potentially be unalive, guys. The U.S. feels the same way because ain't nobody seen him since he's been put in power. Nobody has seen him, guys. We are 30 likes away from 400, guys. If you in the building have not hit that like button, the way you do it is by double tapping that screen if you're on a mobile device or clicking those 3 dots, hitting that thumbs up, man. I'm catching y'all all the way up on what's going on, man. Make sure you support the channel by hitting the like button. It most definitely helps out the channel. Can we please get the likes up to 400, guys? Double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device or click the 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, and remember to subscribe if you are new. Now, with the situation going on in Iran, there are a lot of people that aren't happy about us being in Iran, fighting in this war, basically helping Israel. And none other than Marjorie Taylor Greene, guys, is one of those people who have spoken out against this whole entire situation. Let's see what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say about all of this. And shout out to everybody that hit that like button. I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
There's so much to talk about tonight with all the developments in Iran. I think first, though, on the 13 service members that have now been killed during Operation Epic Fury, I wonder what goes through your mind when you think of those lives that have been lost already.
Oh, it's absolutely heartbreaking, Caitlin. I'm a strong supporter of our military and the great men and women who serve. I think they're some of the greatest among us, and their families who are so concerned about them right now. These are 13 lives that I believe should not have been lost. This war is not something that Americans voted for in 2024. As a matter of fact, we voted for the opposite. We voted for no more foreign wars, no more regime change. And we were told by many members in the administration throughout the campaign, J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, and others, that they believed that going to war with Iran would be a terrible idea. It was something that Charlie Kirk himself had said over and over again. And Donald Trump, President Trump, I voted for him 3 times, fought for him to become president, and I still want him to be successful. But he told Americans for over 10 years and even longer that he thought foreign wars and regime change was really a bad direction for America to go in, and we trusted and believed him that we wouldn't be doing this. But this was an unprovoked war, and Israel pulled us into it, pulled America into it, and so those are 13 lives that should not have been lost.
Yeah, of course, when the president was asked about that, he argued that maybe he forced Israel's hand in this matter. But I mean, now here we are 13 days in. He's planning on sending more troops to the region, we're told. It's not clear exactly what they'll do while they're there, a Marine group. Is that something you support?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I, like many millions and millions of Americans, are outraged by this. He never came to America and addressed the nation and gave clear reasons why we would go to war with Iran, especially after he told us back in the summer that he had completely obliterated all of their nuclear capabilities and had even chastised any news organization or media that said otherwise. But here we are in a war with Iran, and it doesn't make any sense. And I'll go further with this. Why are we sending thousands of more U.S. military troops? Why are we sending more of our military resources? Why are we pulling military resources away from other sectors of the world where it's much needed and putting it all there to fight Iran and to have this war in the Middle East? And the reality is, there are so many innocent people dying. I mean, the little girl's school is such an outrage. It's horrific. And Americans, we don't want to think of our military as being responsible of killing little children. This is absolutely something that Americans...
And they're talking about the The missile hit in that school, guys, the Tomahawk missile that Trump told us that Iran had got their hands on, a Tomahawk missile, and blew up their own school. I don't know if y'all believe it or don't believe it, but that's most definitely what she's talking about. Iran blamed it on us, and we blamed it on Iran.
Should not tolerate, and we are owed answers. They keep saying that they're investigating, but it is such a serious situation. You know, I drove by an elementary school today, and there were children out on the playground swinging on the swings and playing on the playground, and I thought to myself, I'm so thankful that our children are safe, but I can't imagine living somewhere where school children or people's children have been bombed or killed. And this is something that has so many people outraged, because I'll go back, Caitlin, we did not vote for this. We voted for an end to foreign wars, and that's exactly what we should be seeing on the schools.
So you don't think that their answers so far have been sufficient on who's responsible for that, given the evidence that points to the United States?
You know, I don't want to ever think about our military doing something like that or making that type of mistake or however it happened. But everyone has seen the video. Everyone has seen the still shot of the Tomahawk missile. So no, I think they need to come out and talk about it. There's so many things that are so concerning about this war, and Americans have not been given enough answers. Here we are. Here's Americans at home right now. We've got families getting ready to go on spring break, and gas prices are skyrocketing. Inflation has barely stabilized, and people voted for lower grocery costs. Well, we're going to see costs at the grocery stores going up because diesel is going up and oil is going up because of this war. We've got 30% of the world's fertilizer goes through the Strait. That affects our farmers that are struggling already. We voted to put Americans first. I'm a conservative. I'm the America First wing of the Republican Party. That's how I voted. That's what I fight for. That's what I want to see happen. I want to see Americans put first. And we've got the Republicans in Congress right now. They can't even fund Homeland Security. Our own Border Patrol, ICE, TSA agents, and others are not even getting paid. But yet here they are told that they're going to be voting, and they'll vote for it. Believe me, they love the war. The neocons love the war. They're going to pass a supplemental to fund the war in Iran. What is that going to be? $50 billion or more, while the war is costing us approximately $1 to $2 billion a day. But yet we're not even funding Homeland Security, and Americans are still struggling. And Caitlin, I got to tell you, I'm still waiting on Mike Johnson to roll out that Republican health care plan that he boasted and bragged that he was going to have, because Americans can't even afford health insurance right now.
Yeah, I think you said that this is not what the president's supporters voted for. I mean, you're someone who campaigned for him endlessly on the campaign trail. You know what those voters wanted. And when you talk about just gas prices, they're up 74 cents almost per gallon in Georgia in the last month. The administration said today they have a plan when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, which is, basically choked off at this point, which is why those gas prices are so high. We're 13 days in. Do you think that they have a plan?
I don't know if they have a plan or not, because they've never made a clear case to the American people why they are bombing Iran. They've never made a clear case why they are supporting Israel while Israel is bombing Lebanon, and while Israel totally grazed Gaza, killing thousands and thousands of people and children. No, I don't think they've made a clear case for this at all. And the reality is, this is something that Americans are so fed up with, and we voted to end it. That's what we voted for, to end all of this. Here we are over a year into President Trump's administration, and we're in a full-scale war with Iran that doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. So no, none of it makes sense.
You're someone who once said you thought that there was no one more deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize than President Trump. Obviously, he's long sought one. Do you think that there's any way he could still get one, given this war?
At one time when he wanted to be the president of peace and he wanted to end wars and constantly talked about no more foreign wars, no ending wars, of course I thought he deserved the Nobel Peace.
Well, No more foreign wars. We in one right now.
Prize. But do I think he deserves it now? No, absolutely not. And I don't think this is what the American people want. Look, I think there's a big divide, Caitlin, between the baby boomer generation and like Gen X, my generation, and the millennials. You know,
critical say we're not in a war. We're most definitely in one. That's why Trump even called it one. Trump said we're at war. Let's stop acting like we're not, because we most definitely are.
Our generations have been the ones that have been sent to fight these wars in the Middle East, and our generations have paid a huge cost, and we want to see it over with. But yet it's the baby boomers that are in power that are just clinging to power, living out the end of their days. You know, it really angers me, Caitlin, because I feel like they're ruining it for the rest of us. They're leaving us with tens of trillions of national debt. Only 7 years from now, Social Security is going to be bankrupt. So me and you, so our Social Security payments are going to be basically a tax, and we may never see a Social Security check. So the direction of America and the divide between the generations, where many baby boomers are supporting this war because that's what they've been told on television, where many of us, we get our news from alternate sources and international news, and we know what's going on. You know, here's the message for the rest of the world. The younger generations of Americans, we don't want war with the world. We want peace. We desperately want peace between all of our nations. We want good trade. We want to have good business deals. And we want to be able to visit your countries and you come visit ours. This is not what we want. This is not what we voted for. Yeah. And I'm certainly praying for our military troops, and I'm praying for the administration to stop the insanity.
The president said today he would feel it in his bones when this war should end. Is that a clear exit to you?
Wow, he would feel it in his bones. That's what our president said, that he would feel it in his bones when this war should end. Wow.
I have no idea what that means. The same way I have no idea. I have no understanding of what he means when he says he doesn't think he's going to heaven. So those are statements that I find concerning. So I honestly have no idea what that means.
Do you miss Congress?
Absolutely not. This is an institution with a 13% approval rating because it fails Americans over and over. And I'm a very conservative. I always had a strong conservative voting record. And you know what? Congress doesn't serve America. It's America last. And I really believed in serving America first. So it was a land of frustration for me. And I like to get things accomplished for the American people. But as everyone knows, and your viewers at home are watching, Congress doesn't really get anything done for the American people.
All right, so that was Marjorie Taylor Greene on her viewpoint of us being in Iran, and basically she feels like we shouldn't be there, and she still doesn't like Trump. All right, so when I was telling y'all earlier about troops being put on the ground, basically boots on the ground in Iran, they asked Trump about putting troops on the ground, and Trump's response was, "I'm not afraid." You know, basically saying, hey, if he have to, he will. Let's check it out. Here it is.
Today it is now Wednesday morning there in the Middle East, and we have some news coming out from Israeli forces saying they have killed Iran's top security chief Ali Larijani and Basij commander Gholam Reza Soleimani. They say they were killed in Israeli strikes in Iran. The IDF posting this news on X today, saying Larijani, secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council and the regime's effective leader, has been eliminated. Throughout the years, Larijani was considered one of the most veteran and senior figures within the Iranian regime leadership and was a close associate of the supreme leader Ali Khamenei. During the most recent wave of protests against the Iranian terror regime, Larijani personally oversaw the massacre that was carried out against Iranian protesters. The IDF also posting that news with this video posted on X earlier today.
The IDF has eliminated the leadership of the Iranian terror regime. Again, first, the de facto leader of the Iranian regime, Ali Larijani. Since the elimination of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, Larijani served as the regime's head and directed the regime's terror attacks across the region. For years, Larijani was one of the regime's most veteran and senior figures.
This is the Iranian leader one of them that was unalive.
He personally directed decades of terror, including against his own people, leading the violent suppression of any Iranian protesters. Larijani became the Iranian regime's #1 until we eliminated him too. Additionally, we eliminated the commander of the Basij unit, Ghulam Reza.
This is the other guy right here.
The Basij unit is a force used to violently suppress protesters, silence civilians across Iran, and a core pillar in the regime's ability to conduct their terror operations. Soleimani was a senior IRGC leader for the past 6 years and led the main internal repression operations of the Iranian regime. At his hands, any Iranian who spoke up against the regime was violently arrested, tortured, or murdered. We eliminated a leader who targeted his own people. We began Operation Roaring Lion by eliminating the Iranian regime's senior leadership, and we will continue eliminating any threat to our civilians. As the operation continues, so does our mission. Every day that goes by, we degrade the Iranian regime's capabilities even more. The mission continues.
And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also posting a video about this operation earlier today. Let's listen to that as well.
I'm here with Israel's defense minister, our chief of staff, the head of the Mossad, the chief of Air Force, our senior commanders. In the past 24 hours, we knocked out 2 of the terrorist chieftains, the top terrorist chieftains of this tyranny. Our aircraft are hitting the terror operatives on the ground, in the crossroads, in the city squares. This is meant to enable...
He should have got some big old ears.
The brave people.
He got the Ross Perot ears going.
Of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire. So celebrate and Happy Nowruz. We're watching from above.
For more on this, let's bring in political scientist Benjamin Arad. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Glad to be back.
So it's great to have you back. And of course, every time we talk to you, there's new news coming out of the Middle East. The biggest one today is the elimination, as we just heard from Israeli forces, of Larijani. How big of a blow is this to the IRGC leadership, and what will come next, as he played a very significant role?
The blow is more to the leadership as a whole, specifically than the IRGC. I don't think there's any one singular figure who traversed all the different echelons of Iranian power than Larijani. I mean, he was close to the former supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. He had relationships with IRGC officials. His brother sits in the Assembly of Experts and was a possible candidate as a replacement supreme leader. So this is somebody who had long legacy in the regime going back to the 80s, and somebody who had also good relations diplomatically, and I should say good, but experienced relations diplomatically with the West, and was in charge of leading the negotiations on the Iran nuclear deal. So a very talented, multi-purpose figure for the regime, and somebody who absolutely is a devastating loss for them.
And although many believe that he was, for the most part, calling the shots here after Khamenei's death, we do know that his son, Moshtaba Khamenei, was named as the regime's new supreme leader, although we have not seen or heard from him
questioning
in person.
If he's alive.
Yesterday,
still.
President Trump telling reporters that US officials still are not clear, don't know if Moshtaba is actually dead or alive. What do we know at this point about Moshtaba Khamenei, the appointed new regime leader, and how big of a role is he currently playing in that leadership, if he is alive, as some suspect he may not be?
The elimination of his father on the early days of this the first day of this conflict, I think, put the government in scrambles that left them without a viable path of succession. It does not seem that Mojtaba had the domestic support to automatically be the chosen replacement for his father. We know that Ali Larijani had favored, again, his brother Sadegh to be a possible candidate. There's also talks of Ayatollah Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic, his grandson, as a viable candidate. All of this to say that the junior Khamenei clearly lacked broad consensus support among the establishment. And I think his appointment to the position, done in secrecy, done without any mention, any word from him whatsoever, no speech given, no appearances, I think underscores not only that his health is compromised, assuming he is even alive, but that he ultimately doesn't matter. This is now a regime that is more of a military junta. It's a committee of probably military officials, IRGC officials, running a sort of military-style dictatorship. And the supreme leader is at this point a ceremonial, symbolic figure, as demonstrated by Larijani really exercising control up until the moment he died, and now possibly passing on to other senior IRGC officials. So I'd say really the idea that supreme leader is still relevant, I think we're past that point. So what we're now looking at is basically who in the IRGC is calling the shots, and I suspect it's more than one person.
And, we keep hearing about more leaders being eliminated. How many layers is there here in the IRGC? How deep does that go? You're saying there are possibly several people who are helping call the shots here. If Israel, the U.S. keeps targeting these leaders, how many people would they need to take out to actually make a significant change here or weaken the leadership significantly?
I think we're already at that point. Let's assume that there's the A team level of leadership, which is the one that was taken out at the decapitation strike to start the war. The B team was also taken out. Larijani represented the only really member left from that original A team. We're now down to levels maybe C, D, or E. The point being is that all that's left right now to take up these positions are people that don't have the experience, don't have the credibility, don't have the legitimacy, both internally and externally outside of the structures of power, to really lead Iran, to lead what's left of this regime into the next phase. So they'll have no shortage of people to replace those who are being killed. That's not the concern for them. The concern for them is, do those people stepping in actually have the experience and have the capability, the intellect? I mean, let's just start there. Larijani was known to be sort of a intellectual tyrant, if you will, but at least he's somebody who others felt that he had the experience, he had the gravitas, he had the sort of charisma or the capability to act as a de facto leader. There is nobody left of the regime outside of maybe Hassan Rouhani, the former president, who's really not in the inner circle, who could carry that mantle.
And let's talk about what a lot of people here in the U.S. are concerned about, and that is the possibility of boots on the ground in Iran. President Trump has been asked about this multiple times.
Boots on the ground.
He told reporters today that he is, quote, not afraid of deploying boots on the ground in Iran. While Iran has warned the U.S., of course, not to do so, they said it would drag troops into a, quote, quagmire. So what considerations would go into that decision of deploying U.S. troops into Iranian soil, and what kind of challenges might they face if...
Even though he said that he wouldn't, Trump says he's not afraid to put U.S. troops on Iranian soil. What do y'all feel about that?
They are sent to Iran, even just with the mountainous terrain that some people have been talking about within Iran.
So I think the deployment of troops or ground forces would be to serve the primary objective the president gave on day one, which is preventing Iran from reconstituting its nuclear program. Now, we know, despite the strikes of last summer, Iran has 420, 40 or so kilograms of highly enriched uranium. There's 200 kilograms that remains unaccounted for that we suspect, the intelligence suspects, is beneath the facility in Esfahan. What would be proposed are ground troops, special forces, whether it's from the U.S. military or CIA paramilitary, that would go in and retrieve those 200 kilograms of highly enriched uranium from Esfahan. This was a fortified facility. It's under a lot of rock. It's well guarded. Iranians have attempted to rebuild parts of that facility. We've seen evidence of that from satellite pictures. And so basically any ground operation, that is the objective. And this Esfahan is in the northern part of the country, the northwestern part of the country. So it's quite a ways away from the Persian Gulf, where the U.S. has some assets. It would be difficult to get to, no question, and it would require a lot of logistical support from other branches of the armed forces and possibly even other allies.
And we want to ask you also, for the people inside of Iran, of course, this is a very tumultuous time, a lot of people afraid as these strikes continue. And this is actually supposed to be a time of celebration for the Iranian people. It's a holiday week for them. Tuesday night or last night locally was Charshamba Suri. It is the fire festival signifying light over darkness. The Iranian New Year coming up later this week. We just heard Netanyahu actually wishing the Iranian people a happy New Year, a happy Nowruz. That is supposed to signify rebirth, a fresh start as we get into the spring season. And a lot of Iranians for this new year are possibly hoping that the new year will also bring an end to the Islamic regime and bring in new democratic leadership. How likely is regime change? How likely is it that the Iranian people will see that in this new year?
It's a huge unknown, and there's factors at play here. Number one is, what is the ability of the existing regime to sustain its campaign, to keep up with this war, as its leaders are getting eliminated, as the besieged command posts and facilities are being destroyed, as besieged members and their checkpoints are being targeted by Israeli drones. We're seeing an attempt to undermine and weaken the security apparatus of the state, the enforcement mechanism of the state. And if Israel is able to continue that trajectory and enough of the besieged begin to fear for their lives, there's an interesting Wall Street Journal article today about what Israel is able to do. They're able to actually reach some of these besieged members by phone and threaten them, basically say, when the time comes, when the people rise up, you better step aside and join them or else we will find you. If we're seeing tactics like that deployed, it's really about weakening the resolve of the remaining security forces and their ability to resist, and then giving the Iranian people the freedom to be able to really go and take over some of these installations, maybe take over the state broadcasting, and take the regime down from within. But that's a lot of ifs there, right? It's a lot of the ability of Israel to maintain this campaign, for Iranians to identify where these members are, and to support the Americans and the Israelis in targeting them. And remains to be seen then, once that happens, if the will is there for them to take to the streets and take back their country.
And we are now almost a month or so into this. What are you watching going forward? President Trump also has been asked about exit strategies or when this could end. It doesn't seem like
he doesn't know when it's going to end.
Timeline on this. In terms of timeline, what can we expect maybe from past situations? What does that signify where we could be headed here as more countries are getting involved?
I think the president at the opening of this conflict set aside a timeline of 4 to 5 weeks. I think that still tracks. I think we're still on that path. What I'm going to be looking for is to see at what point will the Gulf countries, the Arab states who have been targeted by Iran's drones and ballistic missiles, they begin to push back more aggressively against Iran. We've heard them issue strongly worded statements. They haven't taken military action. I don't think that's needed. But what would be very impactful would be cutting off Iran's access to their financial institutions. We know that the IRGC in particular has banking relationships in the UAE and in Qatar. It uses those to facilitate the sale of oil and other products that allows it to fund its operations. Are we going to begin to see these Gulf states push back and cancel those accounts and really block Iran's ability to access the international financial system? That would be a big turning point from, I think, further weakening and destabilizing and undermining the legitimacy of the regime.
All right, so we most definitely find out that Trump ain't got any kind of problem with putting boots on the ground, guys. Well, we most definitely covered everything that was within the title, guys. We most definitely, hold up, let me get to where I'm at. Hold on real quick, y'all. We most definitely talked about the supreme leader being unalived over there. There are 3 top officials in Iran that were basically unalived by missile strikes. We talked about Trump and J.D. Vance. I showed y'all that with what they had to say about the strategies that they were looking to take in Iran, and basically the actions that were being taken in Iran and the progress they felt like they have made in Iran, guys. We most definitely talked about the supreme leader allegedly not being alive, the new one. They said that, hey, he likes people of his same gender, males, saying that he may be, you know, like boys. I'm just saying. And that he may not be alive. And it's been a challenge that has been issued to him basically to show himself, guys. And with that being said, I went over everything that's in the title. I most definitely kept it true to what I wanted to present to y'all. I most definitely presented everything I had to present. Y'all should be all the way caught up as of this point of what's going on in Iran, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I enjoyed y'all. If you have not hit that like button, double tap that screen, guys. Get the likes up. Double tap that screen. If you're on a mobile device, there's one way to hit the like button, or you can click those three dots in the right hand corner. Hit that thumbs up, man. You know, most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you like this brand of entertainment, most definitely turn your notification bell on to all so that you don't miss a thing when everything news go live. Once again, I appreciate y'all. Shout out to the new subscribers as well as my old subscribers. Shout out to all of my members. I most definitely appreciate y'all as well. And special shout out to all of my moderators for keeping this chat running smooth. I know that it get crazy over here with all of the varying opinions in the chat, so shout out to y'all for all that y'all do. I most definitely appreciate y'all. And with that being said, I guess it's time for me to make my grand exit. Man, y'all have a great day. Sidewalk Gang, checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be good. I'm gone, y'all. Shout out to y'all.